Hello, everyone, and welcome to 15 Civil 3D tips and tricks in 30 minutes. My name is Juliana, and I work in marketing here at MicroCAD. And today's presenter is Mike Caruso. By the end of the webinar, you have learned something new to help you with your workflows, and that is definitely worth 30 minutes of your time. Throughout the webinar, you can ask a question at any given point on the left-hand corner. You can ask Mike to revisit a step or ask any Civil 3D questions. This is your time, and we want you to make the most of it. And in the upper left-hand corner, you will find links to our Civil 3D productivity tools info, as well as our website. Also, please make sure to check our YouTube channel. We post all of our webinars there at the end, so you can share with colleagues or rewatch it on your own time. And without further ado, we'll pass it on to Mike.
Thanks, Juliana. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mike Caruso. I'm the Civil Infrastructure Application Specialist here at MicroCAD. I offer training and support on Civil 3D, as well as the other infrastructure products like InfraWorks and Storm and Sanitary Analysis. So I'll share my screen so that everyone can have a look at what's in store today. Do that. And as Juliana mentioned, we're going to show some Civil 3D tips and tricks, 15 and 30 minutes. So these are small little utilities or how-tos, maybe hidden commands that you may not have known. Some of you may be coming to Civil 3D from Land Desktop, so it's all new for you. And while we can learn the major features, we often find that when we get into a plan or a project, it's always the little things that we wind up getting into the weeds and searching for. So I hope to flush some of those out for you. MicroCAD, again, we've been in the Boston area and have grown through the East Coast as well as the West Coast now, but we offer sales training and services for all of the Autodesk spectrum of products. So feel free to reach out to us for additional questions after the webinar. On the menu today, for the tips and tricks, we have 15 laid out. I've kind of grouped them out here in fives. So the first group is going to show you how to raise and lower objects when we have datum changes. I'm going to show you some tricks around styles and settings in Civil 3D. And then styles and settings from other templates that you can link to your current drawing. So we'll start with those five, and I'll switch over to Civil, of course. All right. So I'm trying to cover some tips that will cover the spectrum of users, from surveyors to engineers to water resources people. So so the first one here about changing a datum for points. So I have some points in the drawing here, and you may notice their elevations are on the labels that are around in the 90s. Our points are managed in Prospector over here, and you can use Prospector for a lot of things, managing the data, also for selecting objects and for navigating to them as well. I can select my points in the Prospector, and there's some hidden right clicks and things. There's a lot of right clicks in Civil 3D. So if I grab all those points in the Prospector, on my right click, I will have a command called datum right there. And then it'll send me to the command line. All right. And the command line is going to ask for a change in elevation. And so that's how I can shift my points vertically, positive or negative. All right, so I can add 10 feet just to get a nice change in the label. All right, and it'll iterate through all the points. And now you see they're all adjusted vertically. All right, so it's a constant amount applied to all points. All right, so that's the first datum shift. The same thing is available in surfaces. So I'll go through and create a quick surface here. All right, and then we'll add some points to it, and we'll do that with a point group. So we'll make a new group here, and we're going to include by selecting in the drawing, and I just want to make a little surface out of these here. Okay, and then we'll come back to our surface, and we'll add that group. So we have a new group. Okay. All right, so here's a small little surface right here. The elevations of the surface, of course, they're going to match these points. All right. However, we have the ability under surfaces, under edit, again, here's raise lower surface. So another type of datum, vertical datum shift command, similar to what points have. So I can take this surface, raise lower, and again, it sends me to the command line, and I'll subtract 10. We'll go back to where the points were, right? And there we go. And that's recorded in my history, raise lower by minus 10 feet. All right, so very similar concept. We have it for points, we have it for surfaces, and then we also have it for another object type. This is the third item. I'm going to go to the home ribbon for that because it's a feature line. And a feature line in Civil 3D is basically a 3D polyline from CAD, but it supports curves, and we can name them. Okay, so I can call this curve. Right? We can give them styles since it's a Civil 3D object, and then we can draft them. All right, so I can pick a point, and I can specify an elevation, 100. And then as I draw that 3D object, again, I can do E for elevation. We'll go to 101. And then we'll click over here, and we'll do another elevation to 102. But you get the idea. It's a 3D poly. It's Civil 3D style. So when I select on it, there's an elevation editor, and I can see all the elevations for my vertices, 100, 101, 102. And then we have these up-down arrows. So here's the similar concept of taking an object and uniformly raising it up or down by an increment right here. In this case, it happens to be 1 foot, but we can change that, right? We can do a half a foot step if need be, and then raise it up, right? So very similar. We do have to select all the rows for that to work, and now we can do this up and up and up like that. All right. So very simple in concept, but we often don't know where to go in the menu to find these things, right? I'm taking you to all kinds of different places, Prospector, surface properties, the ribbon, okay? But the tools are there. It's just up to us to kind of flush them out, all right? Shifting gears a little for these last two tips, it relates to styles, okay? So all objects in Civil 3D, I'll go to settings. We'll start with a surface. So all objects have styles and labels and tables. Basically, we can show and hide the data for that object. So the styles come from our template. So when I start a new drawing, these are the styles that were provided to me from my template. However, if I have 10 drawings and I need to make a style change across all of them, let's say that I don't like these colors on my surface, it's not going to plot correctly for line weight reasons or something. So if I have 10 drawings that are all using the same style, we can link those 10 drawings to a template, and that's under Manage. So let's take a look. We'll find the Manage tab. All right. And Civil 3D introduced the concept of a reference template for styles only. All right. So you can come in and you can add a DWT. And if our 10 drawings all started from that DWT, then that's great because all the style names in our drawings are going to match the style name in the template. And if they do match, then that template will override your styles. So all I have to do is open the template, make a style change, and it's going to push that out to the 10 other drawings. Okay, so no more green colored borders on my surfaces if I don't want. Okay, Also related, tip number 4 and 5, with those styles in my current drawing, we do have the ability to import. So if I wasn't linked to my template, I could always re-import styles from a template. And if they have the same name, they'll overwrite each other. All right. Going the other way, when it's time to ship this drawing off to a client, you can see that I'm only using about 3 styles currently by these little yellow flags here. That's what that means, is that they're in use either in the drawing or in a setting. But these other styles don't need to go to the customer. They're not in use. So we have a purge option over here, again on the Manage tab, and it will list all styles and settings in the drawing that are not used by any objects, and we can purge those out. Drawing size might actually go down a couple of megabytes too. There's a lot of information stored in the Prospector and settings trees. So there we are. We're 33% of the way through. Juliana, any questions so far? Think not?
No, we don't have a question yet.
All right, great.
We can keep going.
All right, let's take a peek at what's up next. All right, so moving into some other object types. We'll look at alignments. We'll look at importing Esri shapefiles. We'll see some Prospector tools for selecting objects, how to multi-edit values in Prospector, and then a little odd duck at the end, creating a subassembly from a polyline. So let's go back to CAD and reverse some alignments here. All right, so I'll stay in the same, let's see, do I have alignment in my pipe drawing? I may. Okay, so oftentimes we create alignments from polylines. All right, so most objects in Civil 3D, there's 2 ways to create them. We can draw them freehand, or we can convert from other objects. And that's true on a lot of things. We can convert parcels, or we can draft them. We can do profiles and pipe networks. Again, can be drafted or converted from polyline. But in the case of an alignment, I'm going to put a polyline through here. All right, we'll sketch a parallel alignment. And when it's time to create an alignment from objects, a lot of times we select our polyline and press enter, and we hit enter again, and we miss this little arrow giving us the direction that it's drawn. So we'll say okay, and at this point it's asking us for a name, but we have no idea about the direction. Okay, so I'll go ahead and convert and then take a look at my stationing, and then I realize, well, stationing's headed east and it should have went west. All right, so what can we do? We can undo or explode it or erase it and start over, but you can pick on the alignment. Okay, and when we select on Civil 3D objects, the ribbon is listening to what we're clicking on. All right, so it says, oh, you selected an alignment called alignment 1, and then we get a full set of commands for working with alignments. So hidden under my panel, if you ever notice a little down arrow next to the panel name, that means it expands to some lesser used commands, which is what this webinar is all about. And here you'll find reverse direction. Okay, so we can do that. And you're going to get a warning, and rightly so. It's better to catch a stationing mistake early than after you've done profiles and cross sections and corridors from it. No doubt you're going to catch it before that. But this warning is there to tell you that in case you did have profiles, cross sections, and corridors, you may get some adverse results. Things flip left to right in sections and so on. So better to catch it now. But we'll go ahead and click OK. And then labels, of course, they flip, and they're now going to the west, which is what I originally wanted. Right? Checking back, let's not go out of order, but shapefiles. Okay. So shapefiles are a common format for GIS data, and Civil 3D has several ways to bring that in. This is kind of a 4-in-1 tip, maybe. So we have a very, I'll call it an old school way of getting shapefiles imported, and that's just to type at the command line map import. I'm going to think, and in my file types, I'll be able to find Esri SHP shapefiles. And what this does is it will convert a shapefile depending on the type of shape, because there's about 3 or 4 kinds of shapes, points, lines, and polygons. It'll find the equivalent AutoCAD object and convert that into AutoCAD native entities, okay? But the good thing about it is you also have the option to bring in some of that extra data that's attached to those objects. So when the polylines come in, if they represent parcels, for instance, you'll see the parcel properties in your AutoCAD properties window. So that's sort of the old school way, if you will. There's a newer way where it treats the shapefile sort of like an XREF. It doesn't really bring all that into the data, making a drawing file really large. All right, and that's in map W space, or short for map workspace. All right, and we can turn that on, and then you see a little data can over here. So the data we can connect, and then again, I could go and choose shape, and then I would browse out to a folder or a file that has my shape file in it, and it brings it into the drawing as an overlay or an XREF. However, it's not AutoCAD objects. All right, so it's more, this is better suited if you have a large amounts of coverage that you need to bring in. This is the method that I would do. All right, and then we have more specific ways. Civil 3D has a couple of tools. All right, the last two that I showed you come from AutoCAD Map, which is a layer underneath Civil 3D. But in Civil 3D, we have specific objects that can be created from GIS data. So surfaces, for instance, you can create a surface from GIS data if the shapefile represented contours, for instance. You could import those contour shapefiles, and it'll go directly into a surface. Another object that supports it, pipe networks. Pipe networks do support it. I believe that's under insert. They move that one around a little bit. Import GIS data right here. All right, so not in the pipes menu the way the surfaces one was, right? So you've got to go to insert. This is where we bring in outside data types and then import GIS data right here. All right, and this is specifically for creating pipe networks. So if you have a municipal GIS store that you can get data from, a nice way to bring it in right here, because it'll map all the shape layers to pipes or to structures, and then certain fields that are in there can be mapped to inverts and rim elevations and sumps. So you get a good 3D model out of that GIS data through that wizard. So a 4-in-1 for you there on the GIS tips. All right, and we can delve into these. We try to keep this a quick presentation, but each of these is worthy of its own little 45 minutes, if you will, to really walk through it. But this should pique your interest a bit, hopefully. And if you have questions, just reach out to us. So moving on, let's take a look. Shapefiles, we are on to Prospector. Yes, a little bit of selecting and multi-editing. So kind of gave a little preview of that with the point datum. However, in Prospector, you can use this tool to select objects. A lot of times we have objects on top of objects, right? I have a center line alignment, corridor, and a surface, and even some pipes in here. And clicking with the mouse, well, it's hit or miss. Now, I use AutoCAD selection cycling to help me out once in a while. But sometimes it's just easier to use Prospector. And if I really wanted to grab a surface, I can right-click, and then I have select. And it's just like clicking on it in the drawing. All right, so I have select, it lights it up for me, and I get the context ribbon for that surface. All right, but a few other little ones on there right next to it. Zoom to, pan to. So zoom to will take me to the extents of that surface. However, if I wanted to stay zoomed in, we can always just do the pan to, and it slides you over to the midpoint. So it's a good navigation tool. All right, if eventually your drawings become rather complex with 20 or 30 alignments that may represent roads, pipes, rail, and all sorts of other things that can be stationed, sometimes it's easy to just say, well, take me to that alignment, and then even light it up, right? So there it is. So I'll say, oh, that's where it is. All right, so selecting multi-editing in Prospector. So I want to point out the lower half of Prospector, and we'll go back to our points drawing for that, because I had lots of data with my points. Okay, so Prospector's detail pane is a grid view, if you will. There are column headers across the top. And let's just say, I'll bring this out a little wider, that we need to change the description on some points, all right, and on, let's say, 10 of them. And you can click here, and if it's editable, it'll go into edit mode. You can change the description of that point. But you can also use your mouse and shift click to grab multiple. And then if you right click on a header, now that's not standard Windows behavior, right? So we all have File Explorer on our computers, and right clicking a header does not offer these same choices. This is specific to Civil 3D's Prospector. But when I right click the header, I get edit. And then one of these will become active. All right, now I can make them all trees. If I change it to tree and press enter, it's going to carry that down for all 10 points, just like that. And this works on lots of objects that have data in the grid portion. So pipe structures, pipes themselves, and gravity networks. Even if surfaces had common features, sometimes we have a lot of surfaces. I want to multi-edit and change all of their styles. I can right-click the style column, make an edit, and then I get the style selector right here. So right-clicking headers, where it doesn't make sense, they won't let you, okay? Like I can't change the source location of data shortcut surfaces, but things that we normally type in and change, we can multi-edit, okay? So maybe that's a time saver for you. It has been for me. And let's take a look. Subassembly from Polyline. Yes, this our one and only little topic that touches on corridors and assemblies. So, but it's a good entry into the topic of corridors and assemblies. So corridor, I'll switch drawings where I had one. A corridor is a 3D road model. All right, and it's made by carrying these assemblies along an alignment and sort of stringing them together through these little loops right here, these little point circles. All right, and so that creates our wireframe roadway model, and it's got a horizontal control along the alignment, and it also follows a profile for vertical control. So the assembly is made up of individual pieces like lanes and shoulders and curbs, and sometimes our library of assemblies doesn't have what you may need. So for instance, maybe we are after the curb, maybe there's a sidewalk, and then some type of stone wall after that. So we can draw the cross-section of any shape with a polyline and then convert it into a subassembly. All right, so I'll draw a very quick wall with a cap on it, and we'll use ortho mode to do that, right? Okay, how's that, Juliana? Great. So to the left here, zoom out a little bit, I have a corridor object, which is our 3D road model in Civil 3D. And the way that the 3D road is made is from stringing together these assemblies. So here's a cross-section of our road. And then the cross-section is made from smaller parts like lanes and shoulders and curbs. And we have a library of these subassemblies that comes with Civil 3D. And sometimes they don't have the exact cross-section shape that you want. For instance, maybe there's a custom wall to be built over here along the sidewalk. So I can draw a polyline that's in the shape of my cross-section, and there's a hidden command on the Home tab under Create Design Panel, Create Subassembly from Polyline. And so you just pick your polyline, and it'll give it a name, and then you'll get this. So this was originally a polyline. And you'll see it has an insertion point, kind of like a block, and that's how we snap things together in our assemblies. So but if that's not where we want the insertion point to be, we can select on it and choose Modify Origin. All right, and I can pick another corner or maybe a top, wherever it's going to attach to my curb. All right, maybe it's on the left side of the road, so I'm going to use the right corner. So just by moving it like that. So any shape that you can think up, as long as it's closed, can be used as kind of a quick and dirty subassembly to add to an assembly. Now there's an advanced tool that comes with Civil 3D called Subassembly Composer. It's a separate program, and that will let you kind of do the same thing, but you can assign actions and parameters, and they can stretch when needed, and it gets a little more advanced. But for a nice little static shape like this, this command will work perfectly. All right. Let's see. So let's take a look at our last batch. Okay, so these little tips and tricks are a little special. They rely on a toolkit that MicroCAD offers, and these create some productivity tools for Civil 3D. And so we can already edit pipes and structures in Civil 3D, but what this adds is the ability to multi-edit, okay, or to swap multiple parts. We're all familiar with the swap part in the gravity systems. And then we have some conversion things. And again, a lot of this is all around the pipe networks feature. So we'll look at the first couple of editors and part swaps. So for that, I'll change over to my drawing. Okay. So there's a pipe network in this drawing here, and we can see that it sort of runs along the alignment. There's a couple of laterals and then a long one over here, probably a discharge point at the end. All right, and we can see them in profile as well. All right, so over here's the profile. So flow is coming downhill. We have some drops across the manhole. And Civil 3D does a pretty good job at drafting these out following rule sets. So Civil 3D has some rules that you can customize, and you can set minimum and maximum slopes, minimum, maximum cover above the pipes, and so on. Sometimes we can't follow the rules, right? So the terrain conditions out there may be steep or such that we can't do that. But we have the ability, so each pipe can be modified through its own properties. I can right-click a pipe and go to pipe properties, and then I can pull up all the information about it. What's the current slope, 1%, inverts in and out, everything about that pipe, and there's lots of it, is displayed to me from Civil 3D. But if I want to make a change to a lot of pipes, I've got to call this up for each pipe, all right? Even the multi-edit and Prospector that I showed you earlier over here in detail pane, we can't do a lot of multi-edit and change the slopes of pipes. So let's just take a look, and we'll go to the Microsoft Civil 3D tools, and then here is the pipe editor. So let's look at that, pipe editor. And it usually wants you to select an item in plan. It's going to connect them up. So I can pick a starting pipe and an ending pipe, and then it'll let me modify things between them. So here's the first one. Let's cancel that. If I pick it 2 times, then we only get 1. So there's the pipe, and then I'll come to the other end of the run, over here. It's a curved pipe. Look at that. All right. So it tells me basically what my starting elevation was. And then I can sort of reconnect. I find this useful for in sewer applications where the inverts all have to match. I can just put in a slope of 1%. Let's see if I'm going the right direction. And it's going to line them all up. So let's hit apply and then close. And then we'll take a look at the profile and see what happened. There we are. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, my assumption was downstream and not upstream, but you'll see that they all are edited to 1%. I just need to put the negative sign in there. So it's a great multi-edit tool that Prospector can't do, that these objects don't support, but we can do that with this little add-on right here. Another one is the swap of multiple parts. This is nice because I think we only have to pick one item in the run just to identify the network. Here, one more time. A from and a to. So we'll go from structure to structure just to do a couple. There we go. And so you have the choice of editing or multi-swapping structures where everything that I selected you can keep existing and not change anything, or I can change them all to a totally different type of structure. And same thing with the pipes that connect in between them, in which case you can actually change part family. I can change material as well as size. So do we have anything larger than that? No. All right, not ring culverts, but there we are. Let's see, box culverts, go concrete. So we'll go to 24 on all the pipes. And so it'll do a substitute on all of them. They're now 24 through that range. So again, Civil 3D allows you one at a time. Both this pipe editor and multi-swap allow multiple objects on that. So let's see, how are we doing? A couple of utilities. So not uncommon for surveyors to go out and stake points where maybe structures are going to go. So we have a COGO points to structures command, and then we have the opposite. We can lay out structures in our CAD drawing and then have the points automatically staked to the center of the structure. So we'll take a look at both of those. All right, let's see. We'll go structures to points first. So very simple, right? So create, nope, not from, we're going to. Let's try that again. Swap parts, we need that one again. Structures from points, that's the survey one coming in. Let's find the one coming out. And I apologize, sometimes the buttons don't have text next to them, right? So let's see, swap. Yeah, points on structures, it was there. Okay, not losing my mind yet. There we go. So we can select from the drawing, or you can do the entire network, have it all staked, network one. And not only will it put the point at the center of the structure, but you can call out certain elevations as well. Most likely we're interested in the rim. So we'll just say okay. And there we are, some points, and we'll do our normal label drag, right? So you can see that a little better. Right here, it's thinking, but that's my rim elevation. It also puts the structure name in the description of the point. So we didn't really see that as an option in the UI, but I find that very helpful, right? So not bad. And then of course it goes the other way. I could just put some COGO points out here where I plan to put structures, and then Civil 3D will go do the opposite conversion where placing a structure on a point. Okay. Yeah. Lastly, another conversion. Okay, so lines to pipes. Let's do that. So I have CAD lines here to here. All right, so we've done pipe runs from polyline in the past and seen the conversion. However, there's a, we got it right here. Structures. Oh. Swap, local, create points. Well, they have a reverse as well, but we're looking for the convert lines option, and it's missing on me here. Just a moment. Let's see. Yeah, convert lines to pipes. Yeah. So let's run that. And it's going to ask you, select some objects, and then we'll see what options that it gives us, right? So my lines were drawn at 0 elevation, but you do have the option to draw lines in 3D. But with the surface options in here, it can bring things up to grade for us, so no need to do that. But it's just standard conversion. You can choose your network parts list, what pipe family to use, what structures to place at the endpoints, and so on. And then we'll click OK and see what they give us. Okay, so a network over the lines, like that. And the Civil 3D, if we just take a look, under the gravity pipe menu, when we convert from objects, because it's a similar command, let's just take a look. So my lines are not there anymore. They are truly converted. So let's just try that again. So pipe networks from object, and if we choose line, you see that it immediately gave the arrow, and it only does one line at a time. So there's your time savings, is that we can treat all these as one and get one conversion at a time. Now you may ask, why don't we just join all the lines together as a polyline? It is another step, but in some cases we need to preserve the geometry, so we would do that. So, but with that, without further ado, we can take it to the question and answer time. That was the last of the 15 little tips, and I know it's a small subset. Civil 3 is a giant product, so I tried to cover features from all different parts of pipes, the corridors, the surfaces and pipes, points. So we'll be doing more of these, and we'll put 15 more into the next one. So we'll try and cover more product for you as these webinars go on. But from that, we'll open up to any questions. Rihanna?
Thank you, Mike, for that wonderful presentation. And as a reminder, and as Mike already told you, you can ask a question on the left-hand corner. I already see some questions coming in, and the first one is, how much is the Microsoft Civil 3D tools? Are they subscription-based? Mike, I can actually take that one for you. The tools are $299. If you think about it, it's like less than $1 a day. And not only does it come with these tools, but it additionally comes with advanced support. So anytime you call in and have a technical problem, you will get an average response of around 40 minutes and we'll get you up and running. So you get two things, not only the Civil 3D tools, but also that advanced support, which is great. And if you do buy these tools and already have a license with us, we can come up with a good deal for you. So yeah, it's $299, not too bad for the full year, and it really has you covered. And our next question is there a way to shift the vertical datum for profiles and corridors?
Sure, I'll take that one. Yes and no. So there's no specific command. So I did show the datum shift for points, surfaces, and feature lines. They sort of have built-in commands to raise and lower things vertically, but a profile object does not have a similar command. So sometimes we have to do that more manually. You can pick the profile in the graph and move things, or you have to edit vertices a little bit more manually. In the case of a surface profile, we can't, but the surface profile will move if you do a datum adjustment on the surface. So 50-50 on that one. Now, corridors are tied to profiles, so whatever you can shift on the profile, then yes, the corridor will follow. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you so much for all the information you shared with us. That's really helpful. And as a reminder for everyone, if you want to learn these topics in detail, you can always take a custom training with Mike or someone else on our team. And we also offer group classes online. So be sure to check in our MicroCAD website for future webinars. And that concluded our webinar today. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I hope this was very helpful for you.
Thanks, Juliana.
Thank you, Mike.